The people who died in Khojaly, the corpses we have seen in Khojaly, will be in my heart till I die.
Her gün dövülürdüm, her gün.
They beat and tortured me every day.
Dövülme, zulüm, azap.
Every day.
O kadar dövülmüşler ki.
The beating was so harsh that I was unable to stand.
Ayaküstü kalkabilmirdim. Keşke diyorum.
I wish I would have died in the forest rather than be captured by them.
On the night from February 25th to 26th, 1992, Armenian troops attacked the town of Khojaly in the Nagorno-Karabakh region of Azerbaijan. 613 Azerbaijani civilians were killed, including over 250 children, women, and the elderly. The Human Rights Watch condemned the mass killing and called it the largest massacre in the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Nestled in the mountainous region of Azerbaijan known as Karabakh, Khojaly is remembered by those who lived there as a town with tree-lined streets, a dense forest, and hillsides that echoed the happiness of those who lived beside them. It was a place where Armenians and Azerbaijanis farmed and raised their children, side by side, in peace for centuries.
I was born and raised in Khojaly. Khojaly was a very beautiful place. Our daily life was very good. Conditions were good. Cattle raising, vine growing, and tillage were the main agricultural activities in Khojaly. We used to farm in our yard. I was married in 1980 and had 3 children. We had everything we needed, and we were very satisfied with our lives.
Çok güzel şəraitimiz, çox gözəl yaşayışımız var idi.
Yes, we lived together with Armenians. We were friendly with them. We were trading with each other in Kankendi. We were visiting each other's houses. We never had such problems before.
The normalcy of life experienced by residents of Khojaly would be turned upside down following the collapse of the Soviet Union, to which both Armenia and Azerbaijan belonged. At the end of 1991 and the beginning of 1992, as Azerbaijan was coming out of the Soviet fog and not yet politically and economically stable, Armenia advantageously moved forward with its long-standing plans of invading and annexing Azerbaijan. Armenia mounted a systematic offensive to drive out the Azerbaijani residents of Nagorno-Karabakh and illegally claim the land as their own. Quickly, the conflict turned into a full-blown war. Armenia, with Russian military assistance, invaded Azerbaijan and seized 20% of Azerbaijan's internationally recognized territory. The invasion was followed by brutal ethnic cleansing, resulting in the expulsion of over 800,000 Azerbaijanis from their homes. The ordeal began in November of 1991 when the roads in and out of Khojaly were closed.
91-ci ildə 91-ci ilin noyabr ayının
On November 1st, 1991, the road from Khojaly to Askeron was completely closed. Thus, all the highways in Khojaly were closed.
2 nəfər orada şəhid verdik biz.
Khojaly was completely besieged, and on November 1st, 1991, 2 Khojaly residents were killed. Since all roads were closed, transportation from and to Khojaly was impossible.
Bir həftə yadımdadır ki, ona bir işıqlar söndü, qaz kəsildi. Pekarnımız var idi, Xocalının pekarnısı var idi. İşıq gəlmirdi, qaz yox idi. Onu xamırı teyləyirdilər, qarışdırırdılar, evlərə xamır paylayırdılar. Həmən günü, o 25-nin günü, bugünkü kimi gözümün qabağındadır. Pekarnıda xamırı yoğurdular. Hər evə biraz xamır. Həmən axşamı gətirdi, yolunu pişirdik. Həmən axşam hadisə düşdü. Çörək pişirib töymüşəm belə.
When the bombardment began late on the night of February 25th, 1992, Azerbaijanis who'd been left behind in Khojaly after a year of being surrounded were hiding in basements to escape the attack.
And when the conflict started, I didn't understand what's going on actually, because I was 7, 8 years old kid. I was just trying to understand. First, I was kind of happy that I'm not gonna go to school because the kids they love to run away from classes. but I was not understanding this seriousness of the matter. That's like my father, we used to have a basement. It was a concrete. It was a good shelter against the rockets. So we exactly knew when they're gonna start shelling, bombing. So at 7 p.m. my father was telling us, okay, it's time to go to the basement because now they're gonna start bombing. And we actually had like food, blankets, pillows, other necessary things to survive in the basement.
In short, we fled and found a shelter in a basement again. Then we saw that they had already entered the town. The Armenians burned the town haystacks and were approaching by putting fire on houses one by one.
Those who managed to survive the night made the fateful decision to leave around 3 a.m., when in a hurried panic, the residents of Khojaly began fleeing in small groups without proper clothing, some with only what they'd been wearing at night. They escaped into the dark and cold February night.
Mən deyərəm ki, bizlə gələn o 5
We were 500 people in the group. Majority of the people, babies, children, were frozen to death. Today, I cannot endure visualizing all of this. A baby was frozen to death before the eyes of his mother. Nobody could help him. There were 8 of us when we fled to escape. We lived in Khojaly in the upper village. Our communication junction was located in the lower village. Till we reached there, we passed over hundreds of dead bodies. It was like fire falling from the sky. There were dead bodies and wounded people all around us. We could hear people shouting and moaning everywhere. We could hardly climb to Ketek mountain because of the snow. It was getting bright at that time. We saw that Khojaly was burning. Skirmishes, smoke, fire. We could see it from there. They, Armenians, fired at us with artillery while we were trying to escape through the forest. Some were killed at that moment. Then we climbed the hills with the survivors. We stayed 9 nights in the frosty forest. Our hands and feet were frozen. We were left without water in the forest, and everyone was starving.
Qabağı qaranlığa gedir. Bir gecəydi, bir kolun dibinə qısıldıq. Odun yox, ocaq yox, şipişka yoxdur ki, necə bir ocaq qalır, bir uşaqları qızdırasan. Baxdım, gördüm ki, mən də ortancıl uşağım, qızım. 85-ci təvəllüd sevincim. Gördüm ki, Nüje o da donur. O da donur. Onu aldım qucağıma, nə qədər xeyri yox. Bağrıma bastım ki, onu qızdıram. Gördüm, yox, uşaq üzə donur. Gözümün qabağında hesabda ki, o uşaq mənim gözümün qabağında dondu, qaldı. Onu da yine üstünü aynı önden örttük ki, hiç olmasa ki, kurt kuş bunlara değmez. Ondan sonra səhər saçıldı, biz yolumuza davam elədik. Gördük ki, yox, taqətlərimiz tutulub, gələ bilmirik. Balanın gözünün qabağını ölür. Ana ha çabalayır, çırpınır ki, balasını kömək eləsin, eləyə bilmirik. Gözümün qabağı 10 gün biz meşədə qaldıq. 10 gün. Aç, sus, çılpaq. Bacım balaları, 2 də mənimki, yenə də. Balaca son 5'im, bir də böyüyüm. O dediyim 81-ci təvəllüd böyük oğlum. Bir də 86-cı təvəllüd balaca oğlum. Onlar həmən günü hesab ilə dondular. İndi bugünkü gündə sən 3 övlad itirəsən. Onların bir nişanələri yox. Bir ziyarətləri yox. Fevral il dönümləri gələndə mən. Gedib o da abidələrlə təsəllim alırım.
While trying to flee, many Azerbaijani civilians were ambushed and killed in open fields by Armenian troops. Among the killed were 63 children, 106 women, and 70 elderly.
Armenians came and took us hostages. We were afraid to respond. They were beating us. They were pulling from our hair and hitting our head to the wall. They threw me against the wall, and because of the impact, my teeth were broken, my ear bled, and my eyes became dark, so I could not see. I was not able to speak. I was in a very bad condition at that time. My 3-day-old baby died there.
Ancaq bir gün məni o qədər vurdular ki, o qədər döydülər ki, özümdən getmişəm. Bir vaxt ay gözlərimi açdım, baxdım ki, gözüm açılmırdı. Əlimin suyunu vurdum, gözlərimi açdım. Mən gözlərimi açdım, xeyli çox çətinliklə və gözlərimi açdım ki, hər yer qaranlıqdır, hər yer zülmətli idi. Onda hiss elədim ki, mən bayırdayam, həyətdəyəm. Bədənim o qədər döyülüb ki, həm də soyuqdan bədənim keyləşib, hiss eləmirəm, heç nə hiss eləmirəm. Əlimi yanağıma vururam, hiss eləmirəm, gözümə, saçıma vururam, hiss eləmirəm, heç nə bilmirəm. Qışqırdım ki, kimsə var burada dedim. Bir qoca erməni gəldi, o Azərbaycan dilində onlar danışırdılar. O mənə dedi, hələ sən ölməmisən dedi. O mənim saçım var idi, uzun saçım var idi. O tutdu saçımdan məni, haradasa 12-13 metr sürüdü, apardı. Mən bir zaman ayıldım ki, mənim paltarım yoxdur. Tam lüt vəziyyətindəyəm.
The violence committed against the people in town of Khojaly was no accident, nor was it an exchange of fire between two groups of armed combatants on a battlefield. Mass murder and excessive force were employed as tools of intimidation and demoralization against the Azerbaijani civilian population of Karabakh. The current president of Armenia, Serge Sargsyan, was the military commander of the Armenian forces in Nagorno-Karabakh throughout 1992, the time and place of the Khojaly massacre. While serving as Armenia's defense minister in 2001, Sargsyan was infamously quoted by Thomas de Waal, a British author and journalist who is one of the most preeminent experts of the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, as saying, "Before Khojaly, the Azerbaijanis thought that they were joking with us. They thought that the Armenians were people who could not raise their hand against the civilian population. We need to put a stop to all that, and that's what happened." President Sargsyan indicated that the depths of brutality against civilians were purposeful and meant to engender deep and lasting fear in the people of Azerbaijan, of proving the deadly serious goal of defeating Azerbaijan.
By 1994, Armenian troops, supported by the Russian army, had managed to carve out Nagorno-Karabakh itself, plus a number of provinces of Azerbaijan that surrounded Karabakh, and ripped it away from Azerbaijan.
On that day, I accidentally chose that route. I was flying by the hillside because, in that case, the helicopter is less visible and those areas are usually less populated. On the left side of the hillside, on the route to Azgaran, we saw very strange things. A lot of colorful things on the ground. I think that there were at least 300 to 500 corpses of people, because that path of death was too long. I still see that picture. The path was at least 300 to 700 meters, or maybe 1 kilometer, not less. They died while they were walking in rows. Of course, it was hard to separate, but there were children also among them. We could see small corpses as well. Every time when such assaults happened, they would let children and women go, but this time they didn't. Why? I don't know. Maybe something went wrong, or this was a pre-planned action against civilians. The people could not make it to Agdam. They just had to cross the hill, and the other side was Agdam, and they would have been safe. But they installed the machine guns in such a perfect way that everyone was in a trap, and they killed everyone.